I had heard him speak at a group anniversary last year, and he's just a wonderful, dynamic speaker, and he's got a great message, as all our speakers do. So I'd like to, hopefully he's finished his breakfast, I'd like to bring up Gene. Gene's going to use the steps, a wise man.
Good morning. My name is Gene. I'm an alcoholic. And I thank God and members of AA for my sobriety up to this time. And I want to thank the Jones Beach Sunrise Group for giving me this opportunity to share. I really think that they know I needed to work. And I'd like to take you on a little journey represented by my life from the day I was born up to right now. And I think I can do that in 40 minutes, because what's important here is that I had a change in my thinking, which from drinking to a change in thinking which allowed me to get myself together and live with me and consequently live with you. I'd like to first get some identification here. I was born. And if Dr. Bob should keep it simple now. I mean, somebody took care of me. I grew up, went to school, got a job, got married, started drinking. Do I still have identification here? But let me go back to the fact that when I was born, if you ever want a definition of total powerlessness, when I was born, I didn't even know I was in the world. Totally powerless. And that's my starting point, because from the time I got to AA and started learning and practicing these principles, I was able to get free from that powerlessness that I didn't think I had when I grew up. And as a result of that powerlessness, I thought I had control over everything. I knew everything. If you asked me what 2 days of the week begin with the letter T, I'd tell you today and tomorrow. How many seconds in a year? There are only 12 seconds in a year. January 1st. February 2nd. You get it yet? 12 seconds in a year? Okay. And then you asked me what God's name is. I said, well, listen, that's no problem. His name is Howard. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be your name. All right? It's more stuff like that. And talking about God, man, I didn't have any contact with any God, because I would not go to any church, listen to nobody talk about God, and give them my money too. The big book talks about me, in case you think I'm making this up. No. I was like the guy who was hanging off of a cliff, about to drop to his death. You remember those critical moments when we didn't believe in God? We said, God help me. And a voice came from the dark and said, if you believe in me, my son, let go. I said, is there anybody else up there who can help me? Oh, ye little faith. I'm trying to describe to you the fact that I had a bad attitude, too, especially against authority. They tried to tell me about being late to work. I had to get the supervisor in his office, because I do things privately, and look him dead in the eye and say, don't you ever write me another letter about being late to work. You better be glad I'm here. And if you do it again, I'm taking a couple of days off. You know, that means, the higher you were, the more I got to you. They call me a maverick, and sometimes I did things out of control, and I didn't have to, but that was exerting my personal opinion of myself, elevating myself above any and everybody I came in contact with. I would not have taken advice. To take advice or follow anybody would be a sign of weakness for me. AA had the answer for all this personality I'm telling you about. So I drank some alcohol. I didn't know I was putting a poison in my system. Now I can confess to you that I didn't know everything. I took it the way most people did. Oh, it made me feel good. Yeah. It got me out of myself and all of that. And, just heightened the ego that I had, that self-centeredness to extreme I had. And I drank some more alcohol. And I drank some more alcohol. At first it was social events. Next thing you know, it's during the week. Next thing is before going to work. Things began to happen to me. Like, I threw up. Had blackouts. And talking about blackouts, that is where I'm going to connect again with the total powerlessness. I didn't leave my body or my mind, except in blackouts, all my life. See, I'm saying this from the standpoint of what I've learned to practice in AA. So I was powerless all my life, but I didn't know that. And because I didn't know that, I had to fall prey to ignorance of alcohol. And I threw up. Like I said, I had blackouts. Got arrested for drunken driving. Had a head-on collision. Drove my car over the Intervero Parkway on the other side where I didn't belong, now known as Jackie Robinson Parkway, you know, in case you don't know where it's at. Anybody ever drive that parkway? Thank you very much. Now listen, if I ask a question here and I don't get some response, I'm leaving. I might be in the wrong place. Oh, yeah. And I didn't get along too well with people, and I would sort of isolate, you know, and I go in the bar. I stand way down the end of the bar, you know, like to separate this important person that's in there. But you know what happened over a period of years? I went down the other end of the bar and joined the people. Had lots of conversations and drinking and drinking and drinking. Now, I had problems in my household. My wife had to get an order of protection for my hands. Now, in case you're new in AA, we talk like this so you can get honest with your drinking and your thinking and negative behavior. And I can freely share these things now because this is the means whereby I've become free from the bondage of self that got me here. And one day I woke up and I told my wife I was coming home early. Now, if I had been doing this on a regular basis, I wouldn't have to promise her I'm coming home early, you know. But I said, I'll be home at 4 o'clock. I meant that. 2 minutes to 4, I was just about a few blocks away from my house, and I stopped by my friend's place of business. He had a tailor shop up on the avenue, just to say hello. I really meant that. My inventory tells me I really meant that. I stopped in there, and he said the famous words, "Come on in the back and have a taste." Just like a robot, I turned and went right in the back. You don't turn down free booze. And I had that one drink. I did not know that I had drunk so much alcohol over the years that I had conditioned my body, mind, and spirit to such an extent that when I put one drink of alcohol inside of me, I would set up a physical compulsion and a mental obsession to drink to excess. Here comes the example. That one drink led to 3 hours of drinking in his place. And they knew we were going to continue to drink, so they hurried up and constructed a bar 2 doors down. Yeah, they did. They did a good job in 3 hours, man. Closed this place up, zoom, right on in this new place. Grand opening. We were there. Spent 5 more hours drinking. So instead of being home sober, being responsible husband and father, and concerned for my wife and all of that, I was drunk as I could be at midnight in this bar. Now, here's some insanity. Now, I never called home when I was out there drinking. See if you can identify with this. If you do, raise your hand. I had it in my mind if I didn't call home, I wouldn't have to lie. Thank you very much. We're on the ball now. I feel more comfortable with these responses. I left that bar now. I had no concern, and this is where the insanity comes in. I'm grateful to know that I can share this, that I didn't even consider the fact I told my wife I was coming home 4 o'clock. I didn't consider that she was home worrying where I was and all that. But I'm pointing this out to you because this disease of alcoholism is accompanied by a state of insanity. Yeah, you know, we got a monopoly on insanity. You know that, don't you? You keep coming to meetings. You can only get gratitude from all that stuff you don't have to go through. Well, I got home without incident up to this point. I had been arrested for drunken driving, but you see, I drank a day at a time, and I went through my pain, misery, and suffering a day at a time, and I tended to forget all those bad things that happened before. It's just like I consider the past from the day I was born up to now is perfect. I don't go back there. because I live from now on free from the bondage of self with these principles, which I will get to tell you about. And I got home, put the key in the door. My wife is at the top of the stairs. I looked up there and I said, "Where's my supper?" The drunken king had arrived. I was drunken king in my house. Everything better be all right while I'm out there married but not married and playing games and all that stuff. When I got home, everything better be perfect. And when I asked her, "Where's my supper?" that was a diversion, you know that. Yeah, they're bringing this drunken person in the house, you know, and no consideration, all that. She came downstairs without saying a word, went into the kitchen, and she was going to fix something to eat. It took me 5 minutes to get from the front door, through the dining room, to the kitchen. You know, I'm bouncing off the wall. I was so drunk. So wonder I got home. And I attach gratitude to everything I tell you now, you see, because it's not happening to me today. In case you knew, I'd like to welcome you. Keep coming. Yeah. It's for anybody. We don't care if you're from Yale Jail, Park Avenue, Park Bench. You got a problem with alcohol, you're in the right place. You got 2.5 million people on your side. That's more than I had on my side when I got here. Nobody was on my side, man. And I wasn't even on my own side drinking. I got into the kitchen. She was fixing something to eat. And I said, "Why isn't it on the stove?" Oh, now here's something else I learned. I didn't know that I could speak to certain people in such a manner that they would want to hurt me. Now, here's an example. When I said, "Why isn't it on the stove?" she turned around, and, you know, she was boiling and angry and all that. She started cursing me out. Now, I'm not going to tell you the flowery words she used. You know them. You must have received them sometime in your... I don't have to go through that, you know. Yeah, that's silent identification. And she told me 3 very important things. Yeah, got my attention. Drunk as I was, she said, "Why don't you go out there and lay in the gutter with your bum friends?" Here's the rationalization. My friends are all right. We drink well together. That was my response to the person supposed to be close to me. Alcohol is a remover. And when I finish telling you this, you're going to see how it removed me. Next thing she said, "You need to see a psychiatrist. You're crazy." I said, "I'd never go to a man and woman, sit there and talk to that person while they try to figure out what the problem is with me, and I'm going to pay them for that too? That's crazy. I read the books like everybody else, man. I may not understand what I'm reading, but I can read them." Then this is the corker. She said, "You're an alcoholic." I didn't know what an alcoholic was, but it was a dirty name. And that caused me to push her through the wall for calling me that name, in spite of the fact she had an order of protection. My son came downstairs and split my skull open. He could have had an axe, I was so drunk. And my mother-in-law was right on the wall. She called the police. Yeah, that's what you do when you get unmanageable. And the next thing I know, there were 2 big policemen in my house. And one was my size and the other one was up here. Now, you know, alcoholics who don't know their alcohol, they don't surrender easily. I started talking to the big guy. I don't talk to nobody my size. Man, no. Just bring it down. And I was cursing him out, telling him to get out and all that. And I think I was making him angry. His partner sensed that, and his partner said, "Let's get the cuffs on him. Let's get him out of here." His partner went outside, turned the siren on, woke up the entire neighborhood, came back, and this guy really put the cuffs on in the back, a couple extra notches. Now I'm drunk as I can be, head split open, notches in my wrists, and they both take me under the arm out of my house, and I got a driveway. They marched me slowly down the driveway so everybody could see this mess. But I was so drunk it didn't make no difference to me. You know, it was like a Shakespearean play. I was a star of the show and didn't know the line of my part. Drunks don't need rehearsal. They automatically act out, you know. They threw me in the back of the car, into the hospital, sewed up my head, into the criminal court jail. Next day, the judge put me out and said, "Yes, you stay out of that house until you show up in family court. When you finish there, you come back to criminal court and stand trial." I always like to call that a 2-for-1 drunk. I always look back with gratitude. You might say, well, I should be angry at my son for splitting my skull open. He was trying to defend his mother. And in fact, see, I look back with gratitude on everything because from the day I was born up to now, I didn't die. That's the essence of my gratitude right now on. And I look back with gratitude when he split my skull open. I do believe that was the basis of my open-mindedness. Yeah. What can I tell you? Yeah. 2 days later, I had moved out of my house in Queens, went to my mother's house in Harlem, 148th Street and 7th Avenue. I was raised in Harlem. And 2 days later, I accepted the fact that I had a problem with alcohol. And from that acceptance, which I believe was the bridge between the awareness of what alcohol was doing to me and the action that I took, pick up the phone and call Alcoholics Anonymous. So I'm emphasizing the fact that acceptance is the key. Honesty with self got me to the action necessary to do something about my drinking. So I can't jump from the awareness to the action without accepting it for myself. At least I look back and see that's what happened to me. And made it a little easier when I got honest with myself about my drinking, and I accepted it, and I picked up the phone. And I got to my first AA meeting, April 21st, 1973, with a desire to stop drinking. I didn't know that was the only requirement for membership. But I heard a piece of information in that first meeting between these two speakers in the St. Nicholas group in Harlem that turned my life around, so far as drinking is concerned. They told me if I didn't pick up one drink, one day at a time, I couldn't get drunk. I said, now you see, with a desire to stop drinking, everything comes on in as positive. I said, whoa, I thought it was the last drink that got me in trouble. No, he says, the first one. You don't take that first one. You don't set up that physical compulsion mental obsession to drink to excess. And later, I also found out, since April 21st, 1973, not drinking, that staying away from one drink one day at a time does the following for me. I have not suffered from the drug alcohol, nor have I suffered from any of the consequences that can come from all the people who are drinking right now. Prodigious results? That's just for openers. Oh. Now, that's just with the drinking. Now, after this meeting, I'll never forget this guy who became my sponsor. When I called in the group, when he finished, he gave me his telephone number. He said, if you need me, call me. That, I believe, was the connection between that first meeting and 25 and a half years later, standing right up here, practicing 12-step and 12 traditions. That was the connection. Why? I would not have known where to go after that meeting. And I think it was the next day or day after, I showed up in family court. My wife and lawyer were there. They were really a socket to me. I didn't know that. I didn't think I was in that serious trouble. And when it came my time to tell the judge what happened, he said, listen, you got your lawyer here? I woke up then. But I said, no, Your Honor. I said, listen, I have a problem with alcohol, and I've gone to AA to do something about it. Now, you know I didn't say AA to get over. I didn't even know what AA is all about. But no sooner I said AA, he said to my wife and lawyer, I am not putting this man out of his house because he's doing something about his drinking. I said, you know, I'm a project this to God was already working for me. First, he worked by getting me to be honest with my drinking and the action. And now he says, I'm not putting this man out of his house because he's doing something about his drinking. He gave me an order, extended order of protection, and he says, you're free to go. Keep going to AA. Now, I was back in the house, but I wasn't in the bedroom. Now, if you knew, you better get those phone numbers in the beginner's meeting like they tell you to. You know what happens when you don't get your nookie, right? You get upset. I didn't know that was a disease. You go and try, you try to take something, they got to call the police again. So I'm glad this guy gave me his number. I started calling him. He came and started taking me to meetings. And if you got somebody taking you to meetings, please hold on to that person. That's the expression of love in Alcoholics Anonymous. One alcoholic helping another. And am I glad when I look back that this person was willing to come and take me to meetings. And you know what? I considered by the grace of God that he had this man come and take me to meetings who had 19 years when I got here. He just celebrated 44 years. And he is like God putting a personal messenger in here to bring me into this fellowship. And he started me out telling me, A is about not drinking. Learning to stay stopped from drinking. Oh, that was new. And arresting a disease called alcoholism. I said, what? I didn't come here for any disease. Because in the meetings I'd gone to up to that time, I didn't hear anybody talking about a disease. He said, yeah, this is a fatal, cunning, baffling, insidious, incurable disease that can, take you out of here without a drink. The drink is only a symptom. And I can tell you today, it's the last thing that happens in the exercise of alcoholism. And I will tell you. But it's beautiful the way A puts it. Hey, it's wonderful wisdom. And that's why I look at that big book, Dr. Bob and Bill Dub in the First 100, putting all these human experiences in there to help any drunk who has enough initiative to have some honesty, get sober, stay sober, and arrest this disease, and grow in sobriety. I see. And as a result of him telling me a disease, I got a little excited. I said, what do you mean? So what do we do about this disease? You tell me I don't drink, I'll be all right? He said, no. It's a cutting, baffling, insidious, fatal disease. So when I got excited, he said, don't get excited. They knew you were coming. So they wrote a book about you in 1939 called Alcoholics Anonymous. And they put in there 3 chapters, 5, 6, and 7. A program of recovery for those people who call themselves alcoholics. They have accepted the fact that they have a disease called alcoholism. And these 12 principles will allow them to stay stopped from drinking, arrest this disease, change the state of their mind from negative to positive, and begin to practice honesty and positive thinking and behavior and build a relationship with God. I said, well, where do I get this book? I figure all I got to do is read it, and I'll be all right. No, he says, don't worry about it. Groups didn't have literature for sale at that time. But we ended up 11 days in here at the Greenwich Village group. He took me to meetings every night. I was on time. I get some identification there? I hope it's positive. Well, when we went into that meeting, it was close to meeting time. And I said, hey, they got a big book over there. I got excited, man. He said, no, you can't get it now. The meeting's going to start. Do you know I didn't hear a word they said in that meeting? I had my eye on that book. They only had one book on the table. I figured that's the only one, man. I'm getting set before the meeting's over. And man, when that meeting was over, they said, man, I shot over to that table, man. The guy was standing there, and my sponsor said, the book costs about $5, less than a fifth, and lasts your lifetime. It sure does. And I got that book. And the guy went in the back and brought out another one. but I ain't taking no chances. I got this book. And the fellow at this particular time, he said, listen, I want you to start in chapter 5, how it works. And we read all AA literature for identification. And don't look for anybody's name on any literature in AA because we're anonymous at the level of press, radio, TV, and films. So that's one question I didn't have to ask, who wrote this book? Yeah, Dr. Bob and Bill Dub in the First 100 wrote it. And he said, I want you to start in chapter 5. I had no question. That was how it works. Put me right into the solution. He said, you can read the rest of that stuff later. It's just my opinion that chapters 5, 6, 7, and 2, as I give to people I sponsor, the most important aspect of this book, it helps me to arrest this disease when I practice these principles. And I didn't read anything else other than those things and put these principles in practice. And the first line in the big book in chapter 5, rarely has anybody failed who thoroughly followed our path. And we beg of you to be fierce and thorough from the very start. Man, these people are talking from the grave to me. That's the way I took it personally. Hey, that rhymes, doesn't it? Me and personally. Every time. You got it. You got my rhyme for the day. It came out. Don't worry, man. If you think I'm still off, you're in the right place. And then I proceeded down with these 4 steps that are in chapter 5. We admitted we're powerless over alcohol and our lives have become unmanageable. That's what I did when I picked up the phone. I admitted to myself, I can't handle alcohol. I need some help. I surrendered that denial and that self-centeredness and ego and all that. And I was willing to depend on blind faith on somebody other than myself. What a change that was. Giving up denial is tremendous. You know denial is not a river in Africa. Yeah, you do know that now. Okay. And So when I picked up got to that first step, when I picked up the phone, I had admitted to myself that I had no control over alcohol. And they used the word unmanageable. It's a nice word for two words that start with F and U. They told me don't curse in AA. Yeah. And came to believe a power greater than yourself? Now, don't ask me why I picked Alcoholics Anonymous for my drinking problem. I really picked it because it had the word alcohol in it. I had never been to AA. Never heard anybody talk about it. Not where I went. So I don't question anything in here. The key to my recovery was total acceptance. My sponsors don't analyze anything. It's already been worked out. Now they said this disease is so cunning and baffling. But first, before I get to that third step, let me tell you. From the fact that I had a desire to stop drinking, I had to find out whether I was an alcoholic. I read AA's definition of alcoholism, accepted, I'm an alcoholic. Simple as that. See, I don't want to waste any time getting to this stuff. I didn't waste any time drinking. I didn't read no liquor bottle labels, how much proof and all that stuff. I got no time for that. Are you kidding me? Drink? Yeah. Now, you say, I didn't have any connection with God before I got here, and I'm going to follow nobody about God and all that. AA had the answer for me. It says, make a decision. You know all those decisions we made to drink? Just make this little decision to turn your life and will over to the care of God as we understood Him. As we understood Him, they made it personal for me. Isn't that nice? They made it personal for me. I don't believe all the God y'all believe in. If I came to AA and all y'all said, well, you got to believe this later for all y'all, I'd have been gone. But that's not the case, so I don't have to dwell on it. They made it personal. In case you're new in here, AA doesn't require you to believe anything, say anything, do anything. But if you got this disease, you will do something eventually. Like join a group and get a sponsor? Yeah. People are sitting here waiting for you to help them to help you. It's just like I got to help God to help me. So I made this decision to turn my life and will over the care of God as I understood Him, and I had my connection. My sponsor gave me this card with the Serenity Prayer on it. Anytime you get upset, take this card out and read it. And that's what I did. I was like a little kid following instructions. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And I've added in these 25 years, let thy will be done in and through me right now. It is done. Amen. Now, henceforth, and forevermore. Life is from now on. I do believe that God never made anybody in the history of man like me. I'm the only one. Therefore, I think I got a straight line to God. Just as I believe each of you have a straight line to God, connecting the fact that God is, you understand. Get on that line. Nobody can jam that line because you got your own personal line to God as you understand Him. As soon as you get it. So I'm letting you know it's all right to call on Him. You know, you're going to get your answer. You know, I get mine every day. Now, here I am at the third step, and now I'm ready to look into what they said is the thinking that kept you drinking. And all I had to do was a little inventory. And I call it self-examination, not an autobiography of what happened to me and what somebody did. Got nothing to do with it. That was made plain and clear by my sponsor, the big book, and other members who've been around a long time. It was for me to examine my thinking as a human being. I have negative thoughts and positive thoughts. And when I examined the negative thoughts, I found two experiences for each of the negative 7 deadly sins. You know those in chapter 4, step 4. And all I had to do was to find out what happened, how was I affected, the character defect, and when I acted on a character defect, who did I harm when I acted out, write their name and harm done, and find two experiences where the person reacted and harmed me. Just two for each of the 7 deadly sins, 20 positive things about myself, and that took me longer than to do that, the other stuff, because that let me know how negative I was. And 3 of the worst things I did in my life into the initial self-examination, to open up the idea I must now look into me to check me out who I am. I never did that before. Never paid attention to my anger and resentment. I acted out. And now, with just 2 experiences for each one, guess what I found out? Every time I acted out on a negative thought, which makes me disease with myself, my behavior was always negative. I didn't find one positive experience acting out on a negative thought. And how do I know it's negative? Every one of them make me diseased with myself. That's what I found out. Now, the positive things, AA sets up in the 4th step, the basis for checking the negative thought. When it hits and you're uncomfortable, you know you're in trouble. I'm in trouble. And I go straight to God out of that 5th and 6th and 7th steps because I'm entirely ready to have him remove all of these. And I go to him and ask him to remove this feeling right away. And I'm going to stay still because if I ask God to do something, my faith is such that if I ask him, it's going to be done. Consider it done. Therefore, no matter how I feel, I know it's going to pass. The only way I found that out was to do it. Use step 5 on God and another human being. And it works. Now, step 4 sets up all the steps through 9. Check this out. I find out in my experience, when I arrest a negative thought that makes me uncomfortable with the help of God and sharing with another human being, because one day I was sitting in my room very quietly and there was a knock on my head. I said, "Who is it?" He said, "This is God as you understand him." Personal pipeline. He decided to come to me. I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "I am not an alcoholic. You got to talk to somebody you can see, because if you're honest with that person, you're honest with yourself and me at the same time." I said, "Yes, sir." He hasn't been back since. I got the message. Got the message. But in resting the negative thought, and you get the wisdom to know the difference between a negative thought and a positive thought. The negative thought makes me dis at ease with myself. Check it out today before the day is over. Did you get upset? It's about you, not me. And so consequently, I found out. Anytime I get upset, it's not because of somebody else, person, place, or thing. It's because of my reaction. Life is only the way I react to it. And so, arresting this negative thought, guess what happens? I arrest all the negative behavior that could come out from acting out on it. Because remember I said when I act out on the negative thought, my behavior is always going to be negative. I arrest all the negative behavior that can come out of me from not acting out on this thought. Plus I arrest the drink and all of the consequences that can come from drinking. By arresting the thought, where all behavior starts. Then I put into practice something positive. And this took a little time to make that psychic change, this mental displacement that Dr. Carl Jung was telling Bill W. he could not affect in his mind because he's never seen a chronic alcoholic like him. He said, yes, there's hope for you if you get some kind of spiritual experience. And, you know, according to the film, Bill had some kind of experience lightning in the hospital bed or what have you. But the 12 steps bring about the psychic change from negative to positive. That's all it is. A new set of principles to live by, whereby they will bring out the positive thinking and positive behavior. And there's no drink involved, no negative behavior involved, and there's going to be a connection. An improvement of a relationship with a God of my understanding. Because it's all over for me. As it is. I don't belong to nothing in this world. I'm a member of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I'm anonymous in here too. I come to these meetings to stay sober, help another alcoholic, keep a door open. You don't need to know where I come from. Yale jail, park out in the park bench. Got a problem, you're in the right place. You don't need to know what I do for a living. You don't need to know who my mother, father was. What difference would it make who they are? I'm a drunk. Yes. Now, there were 2 difficult things that I had to do here, but I was able to do it with the help of God and the sponsor. He said you're going to have to find a way to forgive all the people who've harmed you. So in that 8th step, I had to make a list of people who harmed me as well as a list of people I harmed. And I told my sponsor, I'm not forgiving those people who took my money in the sting operation. And I got a little excited. And you know, like most sponsors, they just wait for you to do the tap dance. And when you're finished, they're going to give you the simple solution. He said, did you make a decision to turn your life from over to care? Yeah, I said, yes. Well, he said, anything you find that you cannot do, you pray to God and ask for the courage to do it. And he said, I want you to go home and then starting tonight, pray to God to give you the courage to forgive every single person on that list, collectively and individually, and you keep doing it. So that was it. I kept doing it, and I got freedom. Freedom from the thoughts of these people and the people. Freedom from anger, resentment, and retaliation that would come as a result of finding those people. Then I had to make direct amends for my bad behavior to get freedom from guilt and remorse of the past. And he gave me 2 wonderful pieces of advice. He said, I would suggest, and I told him, I'm ready to make direct amends. He said, listen, careful sense of timing, prudence, and all that. He said, it would be well if you simply approached the person, face-to-face, letter, or telephone, and say the following. He said, you may not understand what I'm about to say to you, but I apologize to you for my behavior toward you in the past. He said, that's sufficient. When you're finished, run like hell. You don't want them to wake up and find out you the guy, but you make it of your own accord, and once you make it, your job is finished. You do not make a direct amend for the person to forgive you. It's insane to me, because if I've injured somebody, I make a direct amend, and I'm waiting for them to forgive me. They may never do that, and they may want to kick my you-know-what. But I make it of my own self to get freedom from the guilt and remorse of past behavior, not to do that again. And here we come with the promises, as you heard this morning. Yeah, the promises that are as a result of self-examination and willing to change and beginning to put in live and let live. And mind your business so you can have some business to mind. Don't have any third parties in your conversation. All of these things are freedom from bondage of self now. And I got to keep working on that, because the longer I stay here, the more insane I found that I was. But at the same time, the more gratitude I have, because it's not happening anymore. And I can catch a thought that could kill me. Now, as a result of these promises, and I don't keep tabs on every day what promise I got and all this, I just let life happen. Go with the flow, as my sponsor said. Yeah, go with the flow. Be quiet. Be still. Wait for his will. You will realize it. Now, I'm ready to maintain my sobriety now. The past is reconciled with, paying them debts and all that other stuff. And now I'm ready. What do I have to do to maintain my sobriety? I got to continue to take inventory. I got to stay on time with me in the right now, because there are thoughts that come in my mind without permission, and I better be on time with them. It's no longer about you, people, places, and things. I better be on time to catch those boys, because if I let one of them slide, he starts inviting his friends in there, and they have a party and don't invite me. And the next thing I'm doing a tap dance without drinking. The insanity starts taking over. The action and behavior and all that stuff follows. And when I'm wrong, promptly admit it. My sponsor says, when you're right, shut up. Oh, that's hard, man. I don't let that. Listen. Yeah, I just like to acknowledge my sponsors here. Liz is here. And they both helped me in the beginning with these steps. And now I am ready to embark on a new venture in the 11th step. And that is sought through prayer and meditation to improve my conscious contact with God. As I understand it, praying only for the knowledge of his will. And that's key to me. Pray only for the knowledge of his will. Can you imagine after going all through that step and all that work, cleaning up and all that, all I got to do is pray only for the knowledge of it. God, what's your will for me? Give me the power to carry that out. And be still. Go quietly. And it says sought. That means do it. I use 3 prayers a day. St. Francis Assisi prayer. I like to think that is a straitjacket for doing the right thing. Yes, yeah. It's on page 99 and 12 and 12. It hasn't gone anyplace yet since I've been here. Still there. Yeah. And serenity prayer. The Lord's Prayer. And then I'll sit still. I sit still. Meditation, they call it. Any people I sponsor, don't go out and buy no books on meditation, levitation, and all that. You might levitate your behind out here and can't get back. That's just a suggestion. I don't give my people I work with suggestions. I give them the guidelines of what was passed down in the big book. The 12 and 12, as Bill sees it. Living sober. Came to believe. The booklet on the group. Somebody was talking about the concepts, where we don't talk about concepts in the group because they have to deal with service. But you can find them in the back of the pamphlet, the AA group. They're listed there, and I have people read that just for information purposes. And don't forget that wonderful little pamphlet. They got several more out there. The 12 Traditions Illustrated. Yeah. Need those to keep the fellowship united, you know. When Bill says every member of AA need to know all 12 of them. And in my area, St. Albans group in Queens, in that area, we started a group which does a tradition every single week. And in 12 weeks, the person can go through 12 traditions. We have a group that's been established with steps. An individual can go through 12 steps in 12 weeks. We have a group that is established to do nothing but the big book. In 12 weeks, they can go through that. but all the other groups have different meetings of different kinds. But that was the work over the years, one of the pieces of work that alcoholics in that area did, so that when we're gone, the doors stay open, and then people can come and get sober, stay sober, pass on the message. See? So they tell me I should see things differently now, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps. We try to carry this message to the alcoholic who still suffers and to practice these principles in all my affairs. Now, you know who's got to be in all my affairs? God, as understanding. And passing on the message through sponsorship is the most important thing. And that's what I've been doing for the last 22 years. I pass on 12-step and 12 editions. I don't get in people's business. You messed it up, you'll straighten it out. And people who keep 12-step and 12 edition and practice them, they stay here and keep the door open, and they're waiting for their twin to walk in. Yeah, and pass the message on. It's the message, not the messenger. See? So I do three things because a couple of years ago I took my inventory, and I found and I came up with one conclusion. I'm guilty. I'm guilty. I mean, I was insane and all that stuff, but there's some stuff I did out there. I was guilty. And I accepted that, and I sentenced myself to life in AA. And I want to thank the Sunrise Group because they knew I need to work. Because I'm going to be in AA every day for the rest of my life. The gratitude in my attitude, I have to be here for me. And in order for me to stay sober, I got to work with another alcoholic and pass on this message. Keep that door open. When I joined the St. Albans Group 25 and a half years ago, my sponsor said, stay there. Keep it open for yourself. Don't worry about no newcomers. You got that door open for yourself. Everybody can walk in. And pass on the message. Now, I hope I've said something this morning that may cause you to stimulate you to sort of maybe look at chapters 5, 6, 7, and 2. Maybe go back to your group and find that newcomer sitting over there in the corner, wondering what's happening. Go over and introduce yourself. Now, I'm not here to convince you to do anything, really. I'm here for myself. And I want to leave you with this. And I want to thank you for giving me the time. How much time I got now? 2 minutes. That's wonderful. I feel good that I've done according to what the group wanted. And I want to thank the group once again, and I thank you for listening. But I want to leave you with two things. I heard somebody back there with 6 months or something like that. Newcomer? Good. That's the last thing I'm going to say. But this brilliant newcomer, 4 months, spouting the word, steps and all that, was taken out on a fishing trip with 2 old-timers. Half a mile off the shore, one of the old-timers asked the other one, did you bring the coffee? He said, no, I forgot. He said, I'll go get it. He jumps out of the boat and walks on the water, gets the coffee and walks back on the water, and this brilliant newcomer said, oh, shucks, these guys can walk water. Now, to add insult to injury, when he got back with the coffee, the other old-timer said, did you remember to bring the sweet and low? He said, no, I didn't bring that. He said, you got the coffee. I'm going to go and get the sweet and low. He jumps out of the boat, walks on the water, brings the sweet and low back on the water. This is too much for the brilliant newcomer. He had on a tremendous mental relapse. He said, if these guys can walk water, so can I. He jumps up and jumps into the water. The old-timers anticipated this, got him just in time before he went to the bottom, got him back into the boat, got him back to his senses, it could be her senses, and looked him dead in the eye and said, do you think we ought to show him where the rocks are? In 25 and a half years, I haven't been able to walk any water, but I've been able to trudge this happy destiny to the joy of living. Now, I have to leave this with the newcomer because that's my connection. See, I don't have any more time than the newcomer has. As a matter of fact, I got less time than they have. I'm in the right now, y'all. That's the closest I can stay in my self-awareness of self. And I'm going to leave this with the newcomer because I want to let you know you can start where you stand. That's what my sponsor does. Start where you stand. Leave all that mess alone. Let's get into the recovery. And this man and woman had a child. The only thing that came out was a head. The head lived. At the age of 18, the father took the head to the bar, set the head up on the bar, and told the bartender, give the head a drink. The bartender got over the shock of all this, bought a drink, and the father poured the drink down the head's mouth. A body appeared under the head. Bring him another drink. The bartender brought the second drink, and the father poured that down the throat. Arms appeared. After 2 drinks, there was a whole human being standing at that bar. Into the bartender, the third one's on me. Remember that? keep you connected. The bartender brought the third drink. Now the head, becoming a whole human being after two drinks, picked the drink up himself, poured it down his mouth, and when the drink hit the gut, the entire body, including the head, disappeared. If you're anything like me, quit while you're ahead. Thank you, Ron.
Thank you, Gene.